June 27th, 2025, Abuja, Nigeria. While the world's attention was somewhere else, something happened that could change how 1.4 billion people move money.
The walls and the borders in Africa must come down.
The future of Africa is here.
Most of you missed it. Western media, Chinese media, Russian media barely covered it. But I guarantee you, Trump noticed it. Because what Africa just launched doesn't compete with Visa card and MasterCard. It bypasses the one thing Washington has used as a weapon for decades. And here is what they're not telling you. Look, most people think money is simple. You swipe a card and somebody gets paid. Done. But here's what's actually happened when you, say in Nairobi, buy something from someone in Lagos. Two African countries, right? Your money doesn't just hop across the border. It goes to New York or London through banks you've never heard of. Gets converted into dollars, takes a cut, sometimes 10, sometimes 20, sometimes 30%, then maybe eventually arrives in Lagos. The UN has data on this. Intra-African trade is 50% more expensive than the global average. 50%. And that's not a typo. Now, why would that be? Two neighbors trading should be cheaper than trading with someone half around the world, right? Unless the system was never designed for neighbors to trade with each other. And I'm going to show you how exactly Africa just rewired that system. But first, you need to understand the rule they broke. Now, here is the rule nobody talks about. To trade globally, you must first pay tribute to the dollar. Think about it. You are in Zambia, I'm in Cameroon. We both have currencies. But if we want to do business, we can't just exchange them directly. We need a reliable third currency. And for the past 80 years, that currency has been the US dollar. Now, this isn't an accident. In 1944, in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, the world basically agreed the dollar is king. But here's what makes this brilliant. From Washington's perspective, every time the dollar is used, America gets three things: a piece of every transaction, 2, data, they see who is buying and from who, because if they don't like you, they can cut you off. Ask Russia, ask Iran and Cuba. This is why Trump and every president before him defends the dollar aggressively. Losing that position, he literally compared it to losing a major world war.
And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen.
Now, those are his words, not mine. Now, before I show you what Africa just built, you need to meet the man who is threatening to blow it all up. November 2024, Trump isn't even president yet, and he posts this on Truth Social. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. 100% tariff. That's not a negotiation, that's a threat. And he didn't stop there. By July 2025, he's threatening an additional 10% on anyone who aligns with anti-American BRICS policies.
BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Here is the thing though, and this is where it gets interesting. Trump thinks he's fighting Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa. But while he's busy threatening them, someone went quietly around him. June 27, 2025, Abuja, the 32nd Afreximbank annual meetings. They unveiled a card. Just a card. Doesn't sound revolutionary, does it? But this card, PAPS card, does something no African card has ever done before. When you use it in Rwanda to buy something from Nigeria, the transaction never leaves Africa. The money doesn't touch New York, doesn't pass through London. The dollars are never involved. And all those fees get to almost nothing. The system is called the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS for short. And PAPS card is just the visible part. Benedict Orama, the president of the Afreximbank, said something at the lunch that stuck with me. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, "For too long, Africa's reliance on external system has just increased cost. It's compromised control over our financial data." Control, that's the word that probably made someone in Washington pay attention. Now, let me make this real for you. There is a woman, let's call her Amina. She runs a small textile business in Kigali, Rwanda. She sources fabric from Ghana, sells finished products in Kenya and Tanzania. Under the old system, every single transaction is a nightmare. She has to convert Rwandan francs to dollars, then dollars to Ghanaian cedis. Another conversion for Kenya. The fees alone, it's 15 to 20% of her margins. And the transfers, they can take 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days for money to move between African countries. Now with the PAPS card and PAPS, she swipes. The money moves in real time, converted automatically, under 3% in fees. Done. That's not just convenience for small businesses like hers, and there are millions of them across Africa. That's the difference between surviving and thriving. Micro, small and medium-sized enterprises represent 80% of businesses in COMESA countries. 80%, and they employ over 60% of the people. And up until now, we have been locked out of regional trade because the cost was too high. PAPS card doesn't just save money, it does something more. It opens the market. Now, here's where it gets interesting. October 9, 2025, Nairobi, Kenya. Just 4 months after PAPS card launched, COMESA, that is the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, drop a bombshell. They launch a digital retail payment platform. Same idea, 21 member countries, trade in local currencies, no dollar required. They are starting with a pilot between Malawi and Zambia, but the plan? All 21 countries, over 640 million people. Transaction cost, and I want you to hear this number, under 3%. 3%. Compare that to the 10 to 30% some traders are paying now through the old system. Now, Kenya's Trade Minister Lee Kinyanjui called it a game changer, and Kenya's President William Ruto, he just took over as chair of COMESA, and one of his first moves was to inject $100 million into the Trade and Development Bank and another $50 million into Afreximbank. Now, that's not symbolic money, that's serious commitment. And you know what that reminds me of? There is an old Swahili proverb, Habana haba, ujaza kibaba. Little by little fills the measure. That's exactly what's happening here. These aren't dramatic announcements designed to provoke Washington. These are quiet, technical infrastructure projects, boring stuff, payment rails, currency settlement systems. But piece by piece, they are building an alternative. Okay, step back with me for a second. Let's look at what's really happening here. You've got PAPS, 19 countries, 150 banks. You've got COMESA's platform, 21 countries starting trials. You've got REPS, that's the Regional Payment and Settlement System, operating in parts of Eastern and Southern Africa. You have got IPS, East African Payment System. Now, these aren't competing with each other. They are designed to work together. PAPS is the backbone, the continental settlement layer. The regional systems plug into it. It's a network of networks. And here is the crucial part. This isn't about replacing the dollar everywhere. This is about reducing dependence for intra-African trade. Think of it like building roads. For decades, if you wanted to drive from one African country to another, you basically had to route through Paris or New York. Now they are building highways that connect each directly. The dollar is still there, but for African to African businesses, you don't need to make that detour anymore. You see, the Afrexim Bank estimates this system could save $5 billion annually for the continent. And that's a billion with a B. Money that was leaving Africa in fees that now stays on the continent. Now you remember Trump's threat? 100% tariff on anyone who abandons the dollar. Another 10% for countries aligning with anti-American BRICS policies. So here is the question. Is Africa with PAPS and COMESA challenging the dollar? Technically, no. They are not creating a new currency. They are not directly replacing the dollar for global trade. They are just making it optional for regional trade. But practically, when Nigerian banks stop routing through New York for Kenyan transactions, when Egyptian exporters settle with Ethiopian importers in local currencies, when millions of daily trades that used to involve dollar conversions now don't, the dollar loses a little bit of its grip, not dramatically, not overnight, but incrementally. And here is what makes this tricky for Washington. How do you threaten countries for fixing their own infrastructure? PAPS and COMESA's platform aren't attacks on America. They are solutions to real African problems. Intra-African trade is too expensive. If Trump follows through with those tariffs, he's essentially penalizing African countries for making trade more efficient, which doesn't look great geopolitically. But if he does nothing, he watches as more countries decide they don't need to route everything through dollar-based systems. And that's not just Africa. China got CIPS, Russia's got SPFS. Asian countries are experimenting with local currency settlements. A report from the Peterson Institute for International Economics estimated that if Trump actually implements those 100% tariffs, the US economy takes a bigger hit than most of the BRICS countries. The weapon hurts the welder. Now, let me be clear about something, because I'm not here to tell you a fairy tale. PAPS and COMESA's platform face real challenges. 1. Infrastructure. Many African countries, especially rural areas, don't have the digital infrastructure for modern payment systems. Internet connectivity is patchy in some areas. Power supply is unreliable. 2. Cybersecurity. Now, processing financial data locally means African institutions have to protect that data, and cyber attacks on financial systems are sophisticated and constant. 3. Competition. Visa and MasterCard didn't build their empires by giving up easily. They could lower fees and build African-specific products, basically undercut the new systems. And 4. This is the big one. Governance. Who controls PAPS? how transparent is it? What safeguards exist against political interference? Because the whole point of financial systems is trust. If traders don't trust PAPS or COMESA's platform as much as they trust the dollar-based system, even with its flaws, they won't switch. Some analysts, particularly in the West, argue that African currencies are too volatile and illiquid for this to work at scale. That the dollar dominates because it's stable, not because of some conspiracy. And you know what? That's a fair point. Volatility is real. Foreign exchange risk is real. But here is the counter. PAPS addresses that by settling in real time and netting transactions at the central bank level. It's not replacing the dollar for everything, just for African trade where both sides wants to use local currencies. And the question isn't really whether the system is perfect. It is whether it's better than what existed before. And for a lot of African traders, the answer is yes. So, why does this matter beyond African trade, beyond PAPS, beyond Trump's threats? Why should you care about payment rails? Because this is about power. And power in the 21st century isn't just military, it's financial. The country that controls the payment rails controls the flow of information. They see who's trading with whom, what's being bought, where money's going. And that's intelligence. They control enforcement. If they don't like what you're doing, they flip the switch. No access, that's sanctions. And they collect rent. Every transaction, a small fee. Multiply that by trillions of dollars moving daily, and you are talking about real money. For the past 80 years, America has had that power. The dollar is used in about 59% of global foreign exchange reserves. It's the currency for oil, for commodities, for most international trade. But what Africa is doing, what BRICS is doing, what China is doing with the yuan, is building alternatives, not replacements. Alternatives. So the world isn't abandoning the dollar, it's buying insurance, it's diversifying, building systems so that if Washington decides to weaponize the dollar, and they have, against Russia, against Iran, against others, countries have options. And from Washington's perspective, that's terrifying. Because the dominance of the dollar has been the foundation of America's power since World War II. And losing that, Trump wasn't exaggerating when he compared to it as losing a major war. But here is the paradox. The more aggressively the US defends the dollar with threats and tariffs, the more countries feel they need those alternatives. It's like shouting, "Don't leave," while pushing someone towards the door. So here is where we are, and here is what we don't know yet. Will PAPS and PAPSCAT scale? Getting 19 countries connected is one thing. Making it work for 54 African Union members is another. Will the system handle the volume? PAPS processed about $1.98 trillion in instant payments in 2024 across Africa. Now, that's impressive, but can it maintain reliability as volume increases? And how will Visa and MasterCard respond? They are not just going to watch market share disappear. Do they compete or do they try to partner? And the big one, what does Trump actually do? Does he follow through with those tariff threats? Does he target specific countries? Does he back down? Because here's what's fascinating and slightly absurd. Egypt is in both COMESA and PAPS. Egypt is also technically in BRICS now. So does Egypt get hit with tariffs for being in COMESA's payment platform? For using perhaps the policy hasn't caught up with the reality. And that's the thing about infrastructure. It's boring. Payment rails, currency settlement systems, snooze fest for most people. But while everyone is focused on the loud threats and the big speeches, someone's quietly building the pipes that will matter for the next 50 years. Now, look, here is what I want you to take from this. We are watching something historically significant happen in real time, and most people will miss it because it's not dramatic. There is no war, no revolution, just a card, just a payment platform. But empires aren't usually toppled by armies anymore. They are undermined by alternatives, by people directly deciding they won't need the old system as much as they thought they did. For Africans specifically, whether you are in business, in tech, in finance, this is your moment to pay attention. PAPS isn't just saving fees, it's building financial infrastructure for the African Free Continental Trade Area. It's making continental trade practical. If you run a business that trades across borders, talk to your bank about PAPS. Seriously, ask if they are connected. Ask about transaction cost compared to what you are paying now. If you are in tech or fintech, there are going to be massive opportunities building on top of these rails, APIs, applications, services. And for everyone watching, African or not, understand that the financial world is being rewired. The dollar's dominance was never permanent. It was circumstantial, and circumstances change. Now, there is another proverb, and this one is Ghanaian. Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. Africa's financial sovereignty won't come from one country, one bank, or one system. It will come from all of them, slowly connecting, each small link adding to the larger network. So watch this space, because the next time you hear about African payments or BRICS currencies or Trump threatening tariffs, you will know what's really happening beneath the surface. And hey, if you found this useful, if you actually learned something, drop a comment. Tell me what angle surprised you. Tell me if you think Trump follows through on those threats. Tell me if you're using PAPS already, or if you would like to use it. Because this isn't just about talking at you. This is a conversation. And I want to know what you are seeing from where you sit. I'm Asogwa Idris. You're watching Africa Today, and this is the Strategic Lens. I'll see you in my next investigation.